let's talk about the future of PSLF buyback. I'm going to break it down for you as follows. First, what is PSLF buyback? Next, how can the government get rid of it? Third, what I see currently happening. And fourth, how to protect yourself. So first, what is Public Service Loan Forgiveness Buyback, or PSLF buyback? PSLF buyback is a process for somebody with 120 qualifying months of employment but less than 120 qualifying monthly payments on their federal student loans to make retroactive payments to get their loans forgiven under public service loan forgiveness. For example, let's say that you have 120 months of qualifying employment, but you spend 6 months in forbearance, so you only have 114 qualifying monthly payments. By using PSLF buyback, you can request a single payment that is equal to the 6 months that you missed. You make your single payment, and then you get your federal student loans forgiven under public service loan forgiveness. There's a process that I outlined in another video, so you can take a look back at that if you're interested. Second, here's how the government can get rid of PSLF buyback. So public service loan forgiveness was passed by Congress, but the Department of Education creates regulations to help make the system run. They do that with all of their systems. Most federal agencies do, in fact. Public Service Loan Forgiveness Buyback was created by a regulation that was passed in November 2022, and it became available on July 1st, 2023. Now, once a regulation is effective, it is the law unless it is struck down by a court. And the only ways for an agency to get rid of a regulation are, one, to publish new regulations that rescind the existing ones, and two, for the agency to decline to follow their own regulations. And that's where I think we may be in for a bigger risk. Because though the Department of Education has a general obligation to enforce the laws that it administers, federal agencies have significant but not unlimited discretion to decline to implement or enforce regulations that have been made effective. Agencies can refuse to enforce regulations based on resource constraints, policy priorities, administration changes, but they can't just abdicate their statutory responsibilities entirely or disregard explicit congressional directives regarding enforcement. Now, I'm going to tell you what I see happening. In February 2025, President Trump issued an executive order titled Ensuring Lawful Governance and Implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency Deregulatory Initiative, which directed agencies to deprioritize and terminate certain types of regulatory enforcement. But even before that, we hadn't seen that many buyback approvals. For example, people in the SAVE plan haven't been seeing their buyback request processed because the Department of Education couldn't manually determine how much their payment should have been. Now, to be sure, there haven't been many buyback requests made because it's a new process and not many borrowers fully understand it. Even so, we have an executive order, we have mass layoffs across every agency, we have an administration actively trying to dismantle the Department of Education, and we've got a general attitude that is against student loan forgiveness of any kind. Put those pieces of the puzzle together and you've got a roadmap for non-enforcement of regulations. Which leads me to the final point: how do you protect yourself? If you're in an income-driven repayment plan and in repayment, stay on that income-driven repayment plan. Make your payments on time, every time. Submit your PSLF forms regularly. When you get to 120 months of qualifying employment, request forgiveness. If you get denied, submit a buyback request. But keep making your monthly payments, because if buyback is gone or if that regulation is just not being enforced, you want to make up those extra payments as quickly as possible. There are legal limitations to non-enforcement, but whether the Department of Education has gone too far is really going to be up to the courts to decide. In the end, I'm not really hopeful that PSLF buyback survives either in the long term or even in the short term. If you've got any questions about your federal student loans, your private student loans, or any debt whatsoever, as always, you know where to find me.